Okay, here we have the ENV, no total G in it right now. There's the new total G. We're going to mount it in there and show you all the steps. Quick, simple steps, putting it in, setting it up, getting it flying. Okay, here we have the total G box. Here are the completely useless instructions. Throw those away. Use the instructions in the interface. They'll actually help. Those, no good. Okay, total G, just open up. We got the total G itself. In the box, we got all the electronics, the tape, the USB cable. We'll get it here mounted in the model and go from there. Okay, now on actually mounting the total G, the instructions, again the useless ones over there, they say to use 2 layers of tape. You don't actually do that. You actually use 2 pieces of tape all in 1 layer, and then layer up the total G on top of that. So again, just 2 pieces lined up, and that's how you mount the total G. Okay, I got the total G now installed. I got my 3 satellites plugged in. I've also got them pulled sideways like we said in one of the previous videos to make sure that the pins always stay in contact. I got the wires snug but not tight. In other words, they can't flex around, but they're not pulled, so they're transferring vibration to the total G. I got the battery in, ready to be plugged in. I just use direct power to the total G, and then I use a drop down to the tail. It's all ready to be set up. Okay, once you've got your total G installed, you just want to go to curtisyoungblood.com and click on the resource page, and they'll have the latest download for both the firmware and the interface. Okay, I have the USB cable plugged into the flight control side of the total G. Got my transmitter ready. I got the interface up. I installed the interface. It's ready to connect. All I'll do is turn on the model, and then I plug in the total G. Now the satellites on this total G have already been bound to the radio, so I'm not having to bind the satellites. The only thing you do different to bind the satellites is plug your bind plug into here, and then plug power into here, and then power on your transmitter while holding the bind plug, and then let go and it'd be bound. But this doesn't need it because it was already bound to this unit. Now I just need to come in and connect. Now that the model is turned on and initialized, push connect, and let's see if they're connected up. Pulled everything up. Now mine is set to not pull up all the parameters. If you go into here under options, you can have it automatically load the parameters or not. I just have it not automatically load the parameters. The first thing you're going to want to do when you get the total G all up is you're going to want to boot load the latest firmware. Come in and load firmware, and just load the one on top as the newest one. You hit start, and it's going to ask you, are you sure you want to do this? You say yes, and then it's going to say you need to power cycle it. Let's wait for it to see power cycle total G, and then hit OK when you're done power cycling. So first power cycle before hitting OK. So I come over here, power cycle it, and if you notice in the lights, the light should be red, which is meaning it's not trying to get a signal. So it's waiting to be programmed. So you just hit OK, and then now it's actually programming. And you'll see the status. This takes a few minutes, and the status goes across and completes. Okay, now it's just now finishing programming the flight control side. It says it successfully downloaded the firmware, and please power cycle it 2 times before reconnecting the total G. All that means is you need to power it off. In fact, I'll just show you. Come in, you want to power it off, then power it back on again. Oops, hit the table. Then you want to let it initialize. So wait till the cyclics rock. Now I've not set this model up yet, so I'd like to see notice the CCPM is wrong right now, but I haven't set it up yet. I'm just putting in the new firmware. So that was 1 time, and then a 2nd time. Let it initialize. Then I'm going to go and program the tail rotor side. So let it see. There it rocked. Okay. Now you want to unplug from the flight control side, plug into the tail rotor side, and then come back in here, click OK, and then now connect. Now we're connected to the tail rotor side. Again, I don't have it where it automatically loads up the parameters, but if I highlight over them, it does. So I want to go back to programming, bootload firmware. It knows it's on the tail rotor side, so you just come up here, select the top one, which is the latest program, click start. It'll again ask you the same question of, are you sure you want to program it? Click yes, And then it's going to ask you to power cycle it just like on the flight control side. Power cycle, do the power cycling first. And power it again. And then click OK. Now it's programming again. Alright, now we're just finishing the tail rotor setup, or doing the firmware, and again it just says successfully downloaded. Make sure to power cycle it 2 times before you use total G. So that's just like the flight control side, just power it off, back on again. And you can wait to do this after you've done both. I just like to do it after each one. There's not a real reason to. You can just do one, then the other, then power cycle it twice. Pay no attention to the person in the background. He's not actually here. Okay, so that's ready. Next, we're gonna actually move into actually setting up the total G. Okay, I finished up updating the firmware on the tail rotor side, so I'm going to just start programming from the tail rotor side. So I just push connect, and then it brings up the tail rotor menus. I'm going to go ahead and load from the total G, just to go ahead and populate the fields. Now, if you hadn't set the options to not populate it, it would have automatically populated it anyways. Just to start out, I just set the tail rotor servo type. In this case, I'm already a JR servo, so the JR 8900, that works. Gyro direction, you just want to move the model and make sure you're getting the right movement of the tail servo. In my case, I want to give right rudder moves the servo arm forward, so I just move the model and make sure it's going forward with right and back with left, and it is. The next thing I want to do is set tail rotor direction. So I just confirm when I give right tail rotor on my transmitter that I'm getting right on the servo wheel, and I am. There's right, there's left. So I hold right, and then I push set on the interface to tell it that's right. So when I give right, it's saying right. When I give left, it's saying left. When I'm at neutral, it says neutral. The other thing I can do here is check to confirm neutral. It does show neutral on the wheel, and it's really close. This is off ever so slightly. If I wanted to be real particular about it, I'd get another wheel and turn it 180 degrees and line it up perfectly, but that's close enough. Next thing, after I've set the tail rotor direction, your right, left, I then go and set my limits, and I check the slider and see where it's at when I have the limit highlighted, and I add more right until it goes all the way to full right. That's right, almost hitting, and then I go left, and then I increase left by holding full left rudder until it almost hits on the end. That's the limits. My gain, I just make sure I've got it on aux 2, which you assign on the other side of the interface on the flight control side, and aux 2 is what I use, and 67% gain is fine. All the advanced settings, I don't really touch any of the advanced settings. On the governor, since this is an electric and I'm using the Castle ESC, I don't actually use the governors on this side. What you do still want to do though is you have to teach the flight control low and high throttle. So I go in here and make sure it's full low, I set and make sure the throttle holds off. Full low and set, and then go to full high and set high. Sorry. Oh, I did it wrong. Make sure it does say high. So I now set it on high. So full, low, and high now work. You can also come over here and just confirm it. When you're at 100% throttle, it says 100. 0% throttle, it says 0. So you know it is reading correctly. And that's all you should have to set if you're not running the governor. But you do have to set that no matter what if you're going to, with the total G. You still have to tell it high and low throttle. That's it on the tail rotor governor side. Now I'm going to disconnect, and then I'll unplug and switch to the flight control side. Okay, next I'm going to get into actually setting up the flight control side using the interface. I've got it plugged into the flight control plug. Now I'm just connecting. Again, I've got it set where the options don't populate the fields. I can just go ahead and tell it to load all the parameters from the total G itself. Just wait a minute as it populates the fields. And it's populating all the background stuff too, so even after you see it populate here, it takes just a little longer while it's filling in all the background stuff too. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do, just make sure radio type I am Spectrum. As far as this radio type, transmitter type I am JR. The only difference between JR and Futaba is Futaba would have different neutrals, so it's really just a calibration. You can really be either one and you're fine, but If you're JR, set JR. If you're Futaba, set Futaba. My flight control gain I've got on aux 3, my gyro aux 2, my governor is gear, so I don't set anything else with those. Input pulse widths, I don't really use these for anything right now. I can just make sure they function, but other than that I don't do anything. I make sure my gain is working. I've got it set on my aux 3 switch so I can turn it on and off. So I'm confirming that's working. It does go to 0 when I flip the switch. I also tend to change my max gain a little higher. 48 is a real conservative number. I go up to about 72 on my max gain. And then my actual settings about 65 that I normally fly with. Then I go down here and just check out my gyros. These are actually, I've moved, I think I've shook the table since I initialized this, because my transmitter is off, which is normal. The gyros are actually showing off a little bit, but they're stable, which probably means when I initialized a unit, I actually moved the model since then a little bit. Usually as long as you're below 10, that's okay. Normally they're going to read 0. This one's not right now, but I think I shook the table while I was initializing it. Next thing, you want to go up and look at your swash mode. This model is actually 120 ccpm, so I need to change this over to 120. Now it's set up for 120. Collective direction, I just need to go to positive, collective on my transmitter, and hit set until it says positive. So positive collective on the stick, now negative collective, that's it. Servo directions, I need to check to see if my swash plate's moving the right way. And right now when I go positive collective, the 2 front servos are actually going down, which they shouldn't. Where the rear servo is actually going correct, it's going up. So I know my servo 1 and 2 are wrong. I need to reverse them. So I come in here and reverse servo 1 and reverse servo 2. And now when I give positive, it goes up. I give negative, it goes down. Elevator is correct. Back elevator is back. Forward's forward. Right is actually right and left are backwards. So that I can go in and reverse my aileron in here, and now it's correct. Right, left, forward, back. Now one point which I hadn't brought up, you need to make sure your transmitter stays in non-CCPM mode. All the CCPM is done in the total G, not in the transmitter. Transmitter stays in standard mode. Okay, that's it on your directions. Now you want to check your neutral. The way you check your neutral on your servo is go to your collective and set it at 1500, which is the middle of the channel. Now if you're JR, it's 1500. If you're Futaba, it's about 1530. And some of the other radios may be 1530 or 1500. But JR is definitely 1500. So I just go to 1500 on the collective. Then I go over here and I look at my servos and make sure they're all squared up. This model has, mechanically, the servo's been set up before. So when this is square, when I have the piece in here to check it off, all the things squared up. These are servos are centered, swash plate centered, and I'm at 0 degrees on the collective. So all that's already set up in this model. But if it wasn't, you would adjust the neutrals to get it set properly. Okay, next thing, I need to set up the orientation. Right now it says horizontal side, which means you're sitting sideways relative to the model, but my total G isn't. My total G is front back. So I need to switch this to the horizontal back front, so it's facing front back relative to the boom. The next thing is my limits. To really set this correctly, you'd need a pitch gauge. So when you highlight this, you can put a pitch gauge on here and confirm you're getting the right cyclics. Again, with this setup, I know the right cyclics for mine. I've just set it up a bunch of times. So I know I need to run my travels up to about 125 on aileron and about 120 on elevator. To really confirm that, you want to have pitch gauge on there and make sure you're getting enough travel when you do that. But I know on my model that's the right travel. So once I know I have the right travels, I just go to full aileron right, hit set. Then I go full left aileron, hit set. Then I go full back elevator, hit set, and full forward elevator and hit set. That's it on the limits. Now I go check my gyro directions. Right now they're at normal. To check that, you just lift the model up. Yeah, see it's drifting. Remember the thing said 6 and 10? That's because I moved it when I initialized it. And now sitting here with it on, it is drifting some. But turn it on and make sure when you move, you're getting back when you go forward and forward when you go back, and make sure you're getting opposite. And actually right now the aileron is backwards. It's giving me left aileron when I go left. So this is going up when I give left. So my aileron gyro does need to be reversed. The roll gyro. It's reversed. So now when I go this way, left, this is pulling right. When I go back, forward it goes back, and back it goes forward. The gyros are now correct. Okay, now some of the last things you set, trim lock. I turn trim lock to be activated by throttle, so that when my throttle goes up, my trim lock comes on. Pirouette comp, I turn the pirouette comp on auto, excuse me. That's really about it on the setup. You can get into the advanced menus if you want to, but they really should all be fine stock. You can even get into the background settings. These numbers tend to be fine stock. Okay, now I repower cycled my total G, this time making sure not to shake my rattly table here. And the gyro is okay, both aileron and elevator. So I think when I was plugging it in, the model and the table are a little rickety. So it could be moving while it's initializing, which will get these numbers to drift on you. But now that I made sure it was stable, it's fine. Your gyros are both fine.